Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Ferris Does Whatevs. This one's a bit special actually because my fiance and I went to TRSAC this last weekend, and my main contributions to that party were a DJ set on Saturday night, which was really fun, and also an acid music entry, which I had a lot of fun making, and I'm also really happy with in terms of, I guess, the mix and everything with how quickly I did it. I mean, it's not perfect, and there's a lot of touch-ups I want to do before kind of putting that up on SoundCloud and everything. But overall, I had a lot of fun. My biggest regret, though, as usual, was I did not. Bad at talking. I did not spend enough time actually just talking to people and hanging out, and that was really stupid. I wish I had done that more, but that's always my regret when I go to these. So that's how it is. Anyway, I thought since I had a lot of fun putting together this DJ set and also the acid track, I thought we'd actually take a look at some of this. Maybe we don't have time to look at the track very much. If not, that's okay, because like I said, I want to do some touch-ups on it anyway, so I'll probably do a stream on that relatively soon, because now we're kind of in this position where unlike most of the creative stuff that I do for the demo scene, I usually don't show it on stream because I don't want to reveal it until it's actually time to release it. But now it's something that's already been released that I want to touch up. So it's like, now it's kind of a perfect opportunity to be able to stream some of that work. So I kind of want to take advantage of that and probably will do that next week. But we'll see. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But it's likely because I haven't had a lot of time to actually sit down and do anything this week because I've been just way too tired. But anyway, yes, I'm invisible, and this here is my DJ controller. As you can see, it's got a lot of lights and stuff going on because I haven't touched it in a while. As soon as I touch anything, then it will react. So the reason I have this set up is because I want to actually go through kind of how I prepared this set and some of the stuff that I was doing during the set. I'm not going to like perform the whole set again. Although, I did forget to record the set at the time, and unless TRSAC comes up with a recording of it, I might actually want to do that because it was really fun to do, and I think it would make a good stream with this kind of screen setup, and you guys can kind of see what I'm doing and hang out and whatnot. So I think that actually might be fun. Maybe I'll save that. But anyway, a little bit of a story. So this last July, I actually took a lot of vacation this year, way more than I normally do. And in July in particular, I was lucky enough to go to Tomorrowland. And Tomorrowland is this enormous EDM festival. Really, really sick. And what was really cool about that in particular was... hold on, let me disable the notifications here. Thank you, whoever just followed, by the way. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it because of the way this is set up. Maybe I think that's all I need, actually. Yeah, sorry I didn't see that. Anyway, thank you so much for the follow or sub or whatever that means anymore. I don't remember. Oh, thanks, Coldevu, but I don't work at Fuse anymore. But yeah, so we went to Tomorrowland, my fiance and I and a couple of our friends, and it was really, really fun. Enormous EDM festival. And on the last night that we were there, we saw, I mean, obviously we heard a lot of great music, but we saw, in particular, it was a back-to-back set. Not even a back-to-back set. It was like 3 artists DJing at the same time. And it was Virtual Riot, Phase 1, and Barely Alive. And it was really, really cool. I kind of fell out of touch with a lot of really, I'm going to call it stupid dubstep, and I really mean that lovingly, but I mean just like the most tear out, hardest stuff that dubstep has to offer, at least in terms of what I like. I kind of fell out of touch with it in the last few years, and I know that like, especially Wobble and I have done a lot of harder collaborations in the last couple of years, but beyond that, I haven't really made that kind of music. I used to be really into that. I tried to do that commercially in 2014. I released an EP and I got really sick of it. Turns out that wasn't a great fit for me. I just totally overworked myself and got burned out on it. But now I've been kind of enjoying that again, and it was really cool to kind of reconnect with that through that show. So it was I think it was an hour long, and it was just in like insanely high energy the whole time, just build up, drop, build up, drop, build up, drop, which a lot of people think is ridiculous, but I had a hell of a good time with that. And it was really fun. And I guess as a lot of you guys know, if you've heard of the group Pegboard Nerds, they also played there twice actually. And Alex from Pegboard Nerds is a demo scener in Norway, so I've actually known him for a while. And usually, like, I don't go to a lot of festivals. I think this is the second one I've ever been to. And so both times I've gone to a festival, he has played there, so we ended up kind of hanging out. And in particular with this set with Virtual Riot and Phase 1 and Barely Alive, we watched it together, and it was really fun. And I was asking him a lot of the like production questions just based on a lot of the music that I had heard, in particular about what kind of tricks they were doing for sidechain compression nowadays, and just really trying to get things as loud as possible, because a lot of modern dubstep has kind of converged on this really sort of staccato-y and also very reverb heavy kind of sound, which I guess we'll sort of get into. And I mean, obviously one of the reasons why that's happened, at least the way I see it, is because it actually makes it easier to make really loud and kind of upfront sounding stuff. Because a lot of that comes down to mixing and composition kind of, and how those play with each other. So I was kind of asking him a few questions about that, and he kind of confirmed some things I was thinking and also gave me some new ideas. So coming home from that, this was again mid to late July. Then I had about a week before I went back to work. And it was both lucky and unlucky. It was unlucky in the fact that Caroline got sick, and I felt so bad for her. But at the same time, and then I had she was sitting inside, and that meant I was sitting inside. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was playing with a lot of these new ideas. I threw together a small song which I didn't enter in any compo or anything, and I'm probably not going to release it because it was to test out a lot of the mix ideas. So I actually took the Virtual Riot heavy bass sound design pack from Splice. And I just kind of threw a bunch of sounds together just using stuff from that pack almost exclusively. I did a lot of the synth work and stuff myself, but like the major bass sounds and the kick and the snare, actually maybe I made the kick, I don't remember. But I put a lot of those together just so I could test these mixing ideas with sounds that I knew would kind of work in a larger context like that. So I put it all together just to test out some of these ideas, and I think that went really well, and that got me really excited. And so then I had the idea that I wonder if I could kind of recreate that kind of set and a lot of that kind of music for TRSAC, which we knew we would go to. And I always love contributing to that party. It's always really fun. And it's a great way for me to kind of get back into this stuff if that's something I want to do. So that's what I was thinking then. And again, I made that small track, which was part of my set. Again, I really hope to find a recording. If not, we'll get to that. Or I'll do another stream where I do that and kind of distribute it on probably Mixcloud. We'll see. Anyway. So I made that and I got really excited, and then that's when I kind of brought up the idea of doing a potential set for TRSAC. Actually, it was a little bit later than that, because as I was working on that song, one of the things I had done was I had already thought that I might want to do this kind of set before I brought it up with Dwarf on Twitter, actually. So what I ended up doing was going and buying a bunch of songs that were from those artists, a lot of stuff from Virtual Riot, a lot of stuff from Barely Alive, and a lot of stuff from Phase 1. And I just started like kind of putting together a set and also listening to the track that I was working on at the time sort of in context. And that was really invaluable because it's actually not something I had done a lot before, which is really dumb when I was trying to do this stuff more seriously, because it's so much easier to understand how the structure of your track should probably change to make it easier to DJ with or to make it more compatible with other tracks. It's really easy to see what yours is missing when you kind of do someone else's build-up into your drop or your build-up into someone else's drop. You kind of know if you're missing stuff or have too much stuff. So it's actually really helpful to do that. And I also had a lot of fun. So my track was kind of fitting in with that stuff, and then I got really excited, and then I kind of brought up the idea. As it turns out, that set that I was making then, it turns out I thought it was not hard enough later, because I was making it, I was finding it really fun. I did a couple test recordings of it, and then what had happened is I went and watched a YouTube video of one of the so I guess that group of 3 artists, they did a big tour this summer because they were playing a bunch of other venues where it was the same lineup. So I ended up finding one of those videos on YouTube that was like a full set, and it was way harder than a lot of the stuff that I had put together, and a lot of the mixing was a lot faster. So then I decided it needed to be harder, it needed to be even more beefy, and I'm really glad I did that because I'm really happy with the way the set turned out. I know it was like really hard, and I know that it was a lot of the same stuff for like the whole time, but at the same time, I was kind of trying to recreate this experience that I had at Tomorrowland, and I feel really good about it because I feel like I totally did that. And in addition, I forgot to mention that I did also DJ at TRSAC last year, and the feedback on that was that the set wasn't hard enough. So that's kind of more of the context as well, that it was like, oh, I actually want to make this harder, and now I kind of have the tools to do it. I did have to relearn a bunch of DJing stuff, just in general. But again, I had the time this last summer to do that, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's most of the backgrounds. And then it comes down to actually preparing the set. The set was, I think it ended up at 40 songs. I actually expected to play like 90. And I think in this playlist, there's 68 here. And I had originally planned to do like a lot of different kind of sections, because there's a lot of music that I like. It's not just this dubstep stuff that I wanted to play. Although I will say again that this, or maybe I didn't say this, so maybe again it's not correct, but I think this whole set to me kind of represents like a love letter to, again, what I would call stupid dubstep. And I know it's a derogatory word, but it's just, stupid in this case to me means cool and just like over the top for the sake of being over the top. Like it's like an energy drink for your ears. It doesn't have to taste good. It just has to be really intense. And I just think that's cool. It's a fun engineering exercise. And I also just like a lot of this music. So I think it's really fun. And this was, sort of my love letter to that and what it is, the way I see it as a genre now. And also, I guess just, I had so much fun reconnecting with this kind of music. So that's what this was to me. But yeah, so I had, in addition to like a lot of that dubstep stuff, I had a 128 BPM section and a 170 BPM section with a lot of jungle actually, which would have been not as hard, but also a lot of really high energy stuff. And I bought a bunch of tracks, and there's also some demo scene stuff in here too, including some stuff that we've done as Logicoma. But again, when I went back and started looking at all the songs that I had, this was actually, I think I actually had those until like the week before the party, and then I went back and started buying songs, and I realized that I had way too much stuff already because I'd kind of prepared half the set, and then I had like 30 songs like 15 songs or something. So yeah. Anyway, after this last summer, and I started kind of relearning some DJ stuff, which I guess I'll talk about. I also went and started this playlist on Spotify. Now this is a secret playlist. It's called Operation No Dwarf Standing. And this, again, like I would listen to my release radar, and I would go and seek out certain artists, and I follow a lot of artists on Spotify. So a lot of this stuff would just kind of, I actually should be following all of ours. There's a lot of these artists I already follow, and like, don't follow them either. Bad examples. But yeah, I get a lot of this stuff on my radar already. So a lot of this would come up on my my Spotify weekly or my release radar, and I would always try and like skim through all of that. And I would generally go through this stuff fairly quickly. So basically every week from mid-July until this last week, I was adding stuff to this playlist. So you can see there's stuff all the way from the end of July, some stuff August, September, and October. And I went through a lot more songs than what's on this list. I think there's, how many songs do we have? This is 127 songs. And this was like all the potential stuff that I might want to play, that I heard in the last half a year, plus some stuff that I went and dug up because I knew it would work in this kind of set. And again, most of it just came from the predictive stuff from Spotify, and then also just watching Twitter and those kind of things, where I still follow a lot of these artists from back when I was taking this more seriously. Just to add whatever I could. And I was kind of being pretty picky with a lot of this stuff. I mean, again, this is quite a long list, but this is probably a tenth or less of the songs that I had heard that I considered for this list in the last several months. And I want to keep this secret just because I might actually want to do more DJ streams, and then here I have kind of a stash to pick from. So that's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, this is probably a good time to mention, actually two things. Before I get to my by the way, also this recommended songs thing is really good once you have a critical mass of a playlist like this, because it will show you a lot of stuff, and a lot of the songs I found via this feature as well. Yeah, the list isn't secret anymore, but I think it's secret in terms of visibility for other people. So I think no one else can access it. But It's not like the stuff that's like you guys can read this, pause this or whatever and find it, but you know. Anyway, this recommended songs thing is really good. When you get like a critical mass of songs in the normal playlist, it starts to get really good suggestions, especially because you can refresh it and then just get a whole new set of these. So there were a couple days where I just took 10-20 minutes at work and just like skimmed through all these several times, and I got a lot of good tracks that way. But yeah, my by the way was that Daniel Collin, wanted to thank him because he put together a Spotify list with the set list. So I sent the set list out. I put on Poet and I sent it to him and Graham and someone else. And he put together this list. Let me open this. So thanks to him for doing that, because it has almost all the songs on it. The only ones it doesn't have are the originals, which is the song that I briefly mentioned that I had done in... Whoops. The song that I briefly mentioned that I had done in July, and also the one that I did for the Acid Compo. So, whoops. Yeah. So other than those two songs, it has everything. And I think actually the track that I did for the Acid Compo, once I cleaned it up, it might be time to set up the distro kit for Logicoma, because that would be a great way to at least get a lot of these songs on these kind of streaming services, which would be nice. So yeah, thanks to him for that. I think this was really cool that he put this together. Yeah. But anyway, this other list here, there's a lot of stuff on here. And mostly I was just adding to this, and I was kind of thinking about how some of these would fit together, but mostly I was just listening to them a lot and kind of getting a lot of familiarity with these over the last few months. In the meantime, I was working on the acid track, which mostly started as some kind of like sound design experience or experiments. And then the last couple weeks before the party, I think I started putting that track together. Which again, we might talk about later, but we'll see. But then I think it was Tuesday. No, it was last weekend, the weekend before the party. That's when I started actually buying tracks. And I went through this list again and I sorted by artist. And I went and I picked, I went through all the ones, like there's a lot of 12th Planet here. There's a lot of Phase 1 on here. A lot of Camellia, lots of different artists. And I would pick like the one or two songs that I liked the best from any particular artist. That's kind of how I started out. I'll move the controller for now. So I would try to, and that was kind of my way of getting like more variety to the set, because again, especially for this kind of set, especially Phase 1 has like the hardest stuff. And I'm also a big fan of a lot of this really metal sort of post-hardcore infused stuff as well, which definitely came through in the set. So big fan of that. So I didn't want to just play one or two artists. So I tried to kind of shake it up by just doing that first. So I went through, and then I also, there were a couple that I couldn't really resist. I think there's a couple, what's his name? Ray Volpe tracks on there. Only ended up with, I think, one or two Kill the Noise tracks. I expected more. But yeah, doesn't really matter. I think I removed some stuff. I think I had more Moody Good that I wanted to play, and then took it out. But yeah, so last weekend I started actually buying tracks. Thanks, Alkama. Appreciate the sub again. It means a lot. But yeah, so I started buying those and then just bringing them into Rekordbox and basically hooked up the controller and just started playing around with stuff. Let me scale some stuff here so you can kind of see. I know you won't see much on the controller, but I would literally just like load up a track and then play around and see. By the way, let me know if this is too loud. Right now, it's definitely not, is it? That's not playing. That's because of this, isn't it? Yeah, it is. That's probably not that bad. Oh, by the way, there's going to be a lot of commercial music on this stream, so I'm going to upload it to YouTube and see if it gets flagged or whatever, but I mean, if it never makes it there, I'm sorry. I can't do anything about that. But yeah, then I would just load it up and load up another track and just start playing around, and that's literally what I did for a lot of Saturday, and then again did that again on Tuesday, and in particular I think Tuesday is when it really started to come together, because what I would do is I kind of picked a track, and I think this track in particular, this is Deadshot. It's 12th Planet and Volgatron, and I think this came out like Friday or something before, not the Friday that TRSAC started, but I think the Friday before or something. Like, it was really recent. But then I heard this song, and I just love how this starts. This isn't actually how it starts, because there's quite a bit more intro here. But the place where I started it is just here. And I just love this kind of sound for the start of a set, because it's just it's high energy already, and it just goes straight into it. And then you're in a build up. So I really liked how that felt, so I knew that I wanted to open with that. And then one of the cool things about a lot of this kind of music is that it's all structured very similarly. So I think this track is also a funny thing that I've noticed started happening in recent years with dubstep. This is not a long song. This is like a minute or 2.5 minutes. I think it says here 2:30. And what's funny about that is that this only really has sort of one, I guess I would call it a drop cycle, where you have a build up and then a drop, A part and a B part of a drop. And the other thing that I noticed that happens a lot in more modern dubstep, which is kind of newer, but I guess it's been around for several years, is that it's always common that you have this kind of build-up section, and then you have like a drop, an A part and a B part of the drop. But one of the things that I've noticed this started to happen is that a lot of people add this sort of build-up in between this A part and B part. And this build-up is actually perfect, because this, if you just want to play build-ups and drops all day long, this is perfect, because what you can do is you can play through the first part of the drop, which is like the main part anyway, and then screw this other part, right? You can just do the second build-up into a drop of another song. And this works really well, especially because a lot of these songs will do some kind of build-up and then have this kind of sample before the actual drop part again. And this stuff is really good because you can just cut straight into another song. So like, let's listen to this. I'll load up the next track, and I'll talk about these cue points, by the way, which I'll be navigating around a lot with. We'll get to how I set that up too, because most of this revolves around that. Oh, also I use sync. I'm going to just enable that because I like to make my life easier. And actually we'll pull this up all the way. So this track, this is the track we're going to go into. This is the drop by Gammer. Let me pull this up a little bit more. This pretty good song. It starts really melodically, but in particular, it's also got this sort of build up before the drop, and also this kind of build up in between. So this also has sort of that same structure, but I think I played both drops on this because I quite like this track. Oh, by the way, I should probably say what this controller is. This is a DDJ RB from Pioneer, and then the software I'm using is Recordbox DJ, which comes with that. And this is a really good entry-level controller. It's kind of small. It's not that fancy. It just does what you want it to do. So yeah, this has this build-up, and then it has, again, like most songs, this kind of thing where it cuts out, and there's a stupid sample, and then there's the drop. So we'll listen to that. Right, and the cool part here is that you can set these things called cue points. So the cue points are hot cues, I guess they're called. What's really nice about these is we can, like, let's say I wanted to jump to this part of the song for some reason, then I could set C here. So I just hit this pad, and then this other cue point comes up here, and so now I can go between these different points. A goes here, B is out here, and then C is here, which is really nice. So I'm gonna delete C because I don't need it, but. Anyway, this is really useful because in this case, what I wanted to do was go from this other song, sort of from this build-up, and then instead of having this play its stupid sample, I wanted to just cut into this song playing its stupid sample, which is perfect. So what I do there is just let this play, and as soon as I have a hotkey set up for when I want the first song to play, and I also have one of these hotkeys set up for when I want to switch to the other song or when I want the other song to start playing. And that's kind of the whole system I used here. So these usually these B or sometimes C hot cues aren't ones that I'm actually ever going to jump to. It's something that I'm essentially going to jump from. So for me, it's just like a mental thing. But yeah, so in this case, what I'm going to do is as soon as this one gets to B, I'm just going to hit the hot cue on A for this one and then cut this one out. Before I show you that, I'm just going to also mention one thing is that I learned, or I guess relearned, I don't really use the crossfader so much. It's a little finicky, especially if I'm getting like really into the music or if I'm really nervous, I'm going to shake a lot. And I don't do this often enough for me to feel comfortable with that. So I use these vertical faders, which just to me just feels a lot more sturdy, and I feel like I have a lot more control over that. Your mileage may vary, but that's at least how I feel about this. By the way, I'm going to switch headphones to kind of show you guys this stuff. I hadn't really planned the format for this, so if I'm jumping around between topics a lot, just bear with me. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of show, like, this is literally kind of all I'm doing here. So I'm going to pull this one back so we kind of get somewhere before the build-up, and then we're just going to... What I did just there is I turned on my cue so I can hear this in my headphones. Oh, they already messed up. So normally, I should actually mention this as well. As one song's playing, so like let's say I just started this other song, I'm gonna turn this down so I can kind of show you this. But as this is playing, I have this cued in my headphones because of this cue thing here. Now I don't want the next song to be playing out yet, but I'm gonna load it, which I mean in this case it's already loaded. But I want to test this, so I'm gonna hit the cue on 2. Now you guys won't hear this, but if I hit cue here, I hear this in my headphones. And that's really cool because I can go to this hot cue point and then cue this up, so I'm ready to kind of go. But now we're ready to kind of demonstrate this. Oh. Actually, not yet because it's after this drop. But anyway, I'm able to kind of sit here and hear how it's going to be before I'm ready to go. And then when I'm ready to bring it in, then I can turn off the cue and then actually bring this up. So that's kind of the whole thing, is I'm just kind of queuing up the next one while the current one's playing, and then just getting it ready to kind of play it. But yeah, I'll show you this transition here, because it's the easiest thing in the world to do if you have all the stuff prepared. You can literally use the play button, so I can do this. Let's do this. Done, right? And then what I'm going to do is cut this one out and then start queuing that one. But like, this kind of DJing is the easiest thing in the world. And I didn't come up with this kind of thing. I think it's really common to do this kind of, I think it's called drop mixing. And it works in a couple scenarios. First of all, you need the songs to be structured such that this just works. Like in this case, they're both very loud songs and they both have that same structure where there's a build up and then some stupid sample and then the drop. So obviously they're going to work. And then the other thing is that you need to have these hot cues prepared. Technically, you don't need the hot cues at all, but again, I don't do this very often, so I'm going to make my life easier, and I'm going to sit here and play with a bunch of songs, and when I find some transitions that I like, I'm going to record them for myself as these hot cues. And that way, when I actually do this in front of people, it becomes really easy. So that's obviously very useful. And the way that I found a lot of these transitions was literally that, like I would just play a song and then try something else. So for example, I know that this song would be great if I had some other sample I could go into, but like this could be one of these other songs. So let's pull up something else, just anything really, as long as it's like 150 dubstep, which most of this is. So let's see. I mean, for the sake of argument, I should probably just pick any one of them. So let's land on this one. So I can go through here and just see, like, would that work with this song? Let's see, I think the drops are out here. Yeah, this is perfect, right? This also has this kind of stupid sample before the drop. Also, this is faster. By the way, I totally use sync and quantize, which just, again, makes my life easier. So now if we wanted to do this into here, this will also just work. We can play this build up, but the timing will be a little bit different. I'm just sitting here waiting. right? So again, when the songs are sort of built for this kind of mixing, it becomes really easy. and so that's what I would do. I would load up one track and then just load up all these other ones, because one of the really useful features of Rekordbox DJ, I'll move the controller view here so you can see it, is that you have this idea of which track is like the master. So if I'm playing on this left deck, and I have it turned up, it has this master light on, and I think I can force that if I use this shift and hit sync. I think that's what that does in the controller. But anyway, it's generally good enough that I don't even think about it. The software gets it right with the way that I'm mixing this stuff. So I think like if I turn this all the way down and turn the other one up and play that, then it becomes the master, for example. So now it's switched. It's just switching as I'm doing that. So the other thing that's really cool about this is, like, let's say I'm playing this left track. There's this BPM and key. It's this related tracks list over here, and based on the BPM and the key of the song that's master, it will give me all these suggestions. So like if I was playing the other one, it gives me different suggestions because of the key. But I'm playing this one. Oh, by the way, I love this. I love that sample, and I think I actually put that in the set somewhere else where I was just playing around. So we'll get to how that works, but. Anyway, so as I'm playing around and just kind of figuring out what I want to do with these songs, it's literally suggesting the next things that I could do. And I think that's probably how I found the drop songs, because it's like the second one in the list. So I probably skipped this one because it's also 12th Planet, and then went to this one because because it was the next one in the list. So it's just funny how easy this stuff is when you have these tools, actually. And then it was about figuring out how they fit together, and then this one's kind of obvious because of the way this goes in the drop. I mean, there are a lot of other ways to mix this kind of stuff. So this track on the left here, it doesn't really have that many quiet parts. And obviously that kind of matters for if you want to mix into a different way. Like, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. Yeah, the only really soft part this song has is at the end. But we could do that. We could use that and then kind of mix it with something that's soft here, or even just something that's melodic. So we could even do this if we wanted to. Kind of have this go. And that almost just works. And the only other thing that I did there is that I know that this one, when it goes out, it's going to have this explosive thing at the end here, which is going to be really bassy. And so I just high pass that. So instead of that, I remove a lot of the bass, because if you have a lot of bass playing with two songs at once, it gets really rumbly. So as this is kind of going out, then I just would adjust that. While preparing for the next one, then play that, which in this case didn't make any rhythmic sense, but because of quantize, then it still kind of worked. By the way, I'm doing a really bad job at responding to the chat, so let me catch up a little bit here. But yeah, this was just like a separate DJ set at TRSAC, sort of after the compos. Alchemist says, is software as stupid as Serato and Tractor, where the key is for the original tempo and can't compute key change when repitching? I believe this does compute the key change when repitching. So one of the things I have enabled here is this master tempo thing, which means that if I change the tempo, which needs to be master, so we'll do it with this one. I think it will actually change the key, and you can see the BPM and key things. Oh, actually, you can't see that because my controller's in the way. But you can see the suggestions actually change as I change the pitch, so that's actually pretty good. But generally for this set, I knew that I was going to play a lot of the stuff without really repitching. And if I repitched, it was going to be from like all the stuff in this list is 145, or I think 142 is the slowest, up to 150, and I think that's it. So then I just enabled this master tempo thing, which will keep the tempo as you pitch. And that's again just for convenience. So I think the software is smart enough to do that, but I didn't do that. But yeah. Also, by the way, it's really important to, whenever possible, try and match keys if you're going to do like a longer transition. Like with these really quick transitions, it really doesn't matter at all. And in fact, these songs are in, I think they're in compatible keys, but they're in different keys. And then it really doesn't matter if you're just going to cut like that, do that kind of drop mix. But if you're going to do something more long form, let me see if I can find an example of something where I did that. Actually, this is a really good example. Because I love this transition that I found here. So let me kind of show you what's gonna happen. This song here on the right, this is Circle Pit by Zomboy and DJ Snake. And this has this awesome vocal at the beginning that I just love. Oh, that's the wrong song. Here we go. I want to do Circle Pit on the left and Quiet Storm on the right. Here it is. So it's just right at the beginning. I love how this sounds. And again, this is in F, and the song that I played before, it's in F, right? So like if we find like a really good way to transition into this song would be to have this vocal play over another song, especially because it's just the vocal and like nothing else. And if we cut out some of the lows, then this will kind of fit over anything basically. And then this of course will just naturally go into this song in a really nice way because this song is not produced by idiots. So if we can make this other track play, basically until we get a part that we can put the vocals over, then that's perfect. And it turns out this song actually is great for that because, first of all, transitioning into this other song is awesome because this part's kind of thin. Because it doesn't really come into full energy until here. So that's awesome, by the way. But also it has this drop. So again, it's this drop and then this kind of build, I think. That's a small build at the end of this little part here. And that goes into the second drop part. And the second drop part's a bit more minimal, at least on the second part. And it turns out this is actually perfect for this. So again, we'll do the same thing where I'm just going to set this up. And I have hotkeys here. So I have A where I want to bring this song in. I have B where I want to bring this song out. And I have C here where I want to bring the other song in. So like I really prepared all of this for me. So I don't really have to do anything. And I prepared, it looks like I have a couple other hotkeys where I tried some other transitions out. But in the end, I think I just did this. Oh no, actually, I'll show you what those other hotkeys were because that actually brings in the next song, which is almost exactly the same kind of transition. So this, I'll just let this play. I'll cue this here. Done, right? And I'm gonna do the same thing now. I'm gonna take this one out and I'm gonna kind of like filter it a little bit too. And it works really well because the song on the right has this really sort of quiet part. And I can kind of just like filter this out. And we're done. Like it's so easy. And as long as you can find tracks that work like that, then it really makes your life very easy. And again, I bought way more songs than I played, so it was easy for me to kind of play around with a lot of these different combinations. And then, of course, from there, I used exactly the same technique into the next song. So let me kind of pull that up. The next song, we have to be a little more careful because the vocal's a bit thicker, but it's not any more difficult. Got a bit more going on, so there we definitely want to cut out more of that. But anyway, this song is going to do the same thing. Missed it there because here I did it just over the second drop here. It just works. Yeah, and again, a lot of this works just because of the way that these songs are built. And then if you just try enough of these combinations, you find a lot of these. So maybe I could come up with an example where this doesn't work. Or maybe not. I mean, let's see. So if I didn't have this stuff planned, this is literally what I would do. Is, oh yeah, did you see that? Yeah, it's interesting that I missed the cue there. What do I do if it happens live? Well, so that did actually happen live a couple times at the set, or at TRSAC. There was one major mistake that I made that was really noticeable, where I actually hit the wrong buttons, and I just turned off the playing music and didn't turn on the other one, which is really funny. Again, I don't do this enough to be like a professional, so who cares? But yeah, if you miss it, let's simulate that. So let's say I totally missed it. Now, normally I wouldn't like hit it late. Normally I would just like get distracted or something and actually miss it. So let's just simulate that, because if I hit it and it's offbeat, then I have to like take it out really fast, and that's one thing. But I think it's more likely that I would just straight up miss it. And then what I think I would do, let's just do it. Let's say I was messing around, or I didn't load the song fast enough, whatever. And I forgot. So now this particular cue point, I happen to know, and I can have this in my cue. I'm going to kind of show you what I'm thinking here. This particular cue point, I know it's before the vocal. So on a 4 count, I actually want this to be here. So one thing I could do is I could bring that in when this drop ends. Another thing, though, that I can do is I know that this is this 1 bar before the next one. So I'm actually going to think I'm going to wait till this drop only has 1 bar left and then bring it in then. So I'm going to do this without the cue so you guys can hear it. I'm just counting with the music. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, play. I'm just slowly taking out the other one. And then I noticed that a bunch of other stuff was gonna come in, so I took it out really quick. And again, this works because of the structure of these songs. Like, if you know them a little bit, which you do if you're gonna prepare a set the way I did, because you have to listen to them to do that, then at least you have those kind of other opportunities. So there's always like a backup plan. And like the worst thing that can happen is you end up either playing out the song all the way, because like if there's no other quiet part that you could do this with, if this other track didn't have any other part that I could match like that, then I would have to do like wait till the end of the song, for example, which would be fine in this case because I think it just has like another drop. And in fact, another option that I could have done is to do exactly the same thing that I planned on doing with the first drop, but do it with the second drop. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this also works, right? In fact, this might even work better than the first drop. Although, here's a good point actually, because this is about to get way too loud on the left, so I either need to take out the right one or do it again. In this case, I chose to do the left one again because it kind of vibes nice, and that's easier. But it's up to you, right? Like, there's a lot of... Yeah, it's just a big long loop. And this goes perfectly into this next build-up because it was the end of a drop. And again, you can do build-ups and drops for days. If I wanted to, I can also just take this out explicitly, which I'm going to want to do for this next drop anyway. So the next song... the next one. I mean, I don't plan on going through like every transition here, but like I guess it's good examples already within like the first 5 minutes of the set that there's a lot of this. Yeah, I love these dolphin sounds, by the way. But there's a lot of different kinds of transitions, but most of them are just like hot cue at the right time and kind of filter stuff in. Some of them become a little bit less nice, and a lot of this just comes from the fact that maybe a couple songs don't fit that well together structurally, but if they're close enough, it's good enough. And again, this set, like I really wanted to have, so like I think I mentioned I liked actually how these vocals fit over the second drop of that other track more than the first one, but the reason I wouldn't do that on purpose is because this set I wanted to be really, really fast paced. So it's a great backup plan. No problems with that. But I think as a first plan, I would still want to make it really fast. And that's also what kind of influenced a lot of these other transitions. So like this one, I think when I bring this in, there's already got a lot of energy. And sometimes that's going to be too much energy if the other track doesn't call for it. Or, I mean, if that's the case, we can just bring it in kind of from an earlier point where there's less stuff going on. I think this would work. But again, for the really fast-paced mixing, I want to bring this in where it's really high energy. So another thing you can do then is you can like filter it, or you can bring it in at lower volume. There's also these EQs up here, which I used to use a lot, but I'm discovering that I don't like that nearly as much because I just feel like I'm in more control if I'm just doing high pass and volume. Because one of the things that I would run into a lot is I would bring in a track and it would sound really thin because I wouldn't have all the mids yet, and I would kind of bring it in slowly with a lot of tweaks of these knobs. And I just don't think that that's as effective, at least not for this really kind of fast mixing that I'm trying to do. So in this case, we're just going to bring this part in when this song doesn't have a lot left. So we're basically just going to skip to the outro here. And I think, so normally I'm going to, again, prepare this with the cue and with this turned all the way up so you guys can hear it. It's going to sound really bad because I'm going to sit here and like trigger this a bunch. But I'm just going to try and kind of make the mix. But I think honestly, again, with all these tracks being so loud and so much going on, that I think I just ended up bringing this in pretty raw. So, but I would test it, right? So, I mean, that's all I would really do in this case, I think, because I think it's actually going to work. I'm going to filter this here. And immediately I'm going to bring down the other one a little bit. Sometimes I'll turn on the delay. But I'm done with that track already, so we're good. Again, this is so stupid music, but it's great. And that same kind of transition again, where you kind of bring it into like a quieter part. I think this one just went straight into a build, but like the next one, I think I just bring straight up into the intro because this intro just kind of works really nicely with a lot of tracks. So I think, and also this track is "Rise from the Dead" by Dirty Phonics, and I love this drop. But I don't so much like the rest of it. I mean, I think it's good, but it's not really to my taste. So there's a lot of tracks like this where I just play the build up and the drop, and that's it. Which I also have a lot of fun just kind of putting together a set that's like that. But yeah, I can kind of demonstrate that. Again, same thing here. Good enough, right? And then we're into the other song. And this song actually is like, yeah, you can always tell it's Fox immediately. So true. Really bright kind of pads and kind of vocals and stuff. I really like his style. This track actually, the first drop is a lot more melodic than what the rest of the set was, but it's really nice, so I kind of wanted to play it. And I thought it was a nice break after so many just like really heavy songs. And the other thing that's really nice about this is that this track also has a heavier drop as the second drop. So after I'm kind of indulging the melodic part here, then we kind of get back to what the rest of the set was about with the second drop. So I let it play the whole way through. And then just skip to that. Yeah, he was like, most of these tracks are 3.5 minutes. Again, some of them are 2.5 minutes, which is funny, including this one, which is this sort of original that I made with all the virtual riot sounds after Tomorrowland, which is, by the way, why I'm not going to release it, because it doesn't feel original enough to me, and also I don't think the mix is super good. But of course I'm going to play it if I made it, so, and that works really great out of this. So my song has this really ARPy part here in the beginning, and the Fox Stevenson thing just works so well on top of this. But as more things start coming in the Fox Stevenson track, we don't want this anymore, so I'm just going to take it out there. And we're good. And again, my track, like all these other tracks, is sort of built in the same way that it fits this kind of mixing. Which is obviously very intentional. And then I also know that my track ends with this kind of like melodic fading out thing, and that works really well with this other Virtual Riot track. So, in fact, I think I just play that here, just at the end. I think with this one I also tried bringing the Virtual Riot one in earlier. It just sounded better at the end though. Yeah, again, I made this track mostly to test out some mixed stuff, so I don't think I'm going to release it. More a tool for my own learning, but really happy to have had it in this set. And again, the structure is this drop, build up, drop kind of thing again too. But I don't take advantage of it in this case. Okay. By the way, the software starts yelling at me that the track's gonna end soon. We don't care. And here I'm gonna filter this one out a little bit too. I just let this play because that sample at the end of mine, that dude that's tight sample, just works over the other track. So we're good. Yeah, these waveforms are really max. I'm also kind of surprised. I mean, it gets pretty sausagey here. It also only shows the top half of the waveform. That's you can change that in the preferences. But this one actually, it looks like this is one of those ones where I think I mix two buildups together, which is kind of another thing you can do. Yeah, there's a few seconds of rest. Probably not enough, but. You know, and I think it's so funny that the feedback was that the set was too hard. That's most of the feedback I've gotten, which is really funny to me because, again, I did exactly what I wanted. Anyway, I actually want to go through this transition because I've showed like you can do a build up into another drop, or you could do like a drop, like some breakdown into another breakdown. This is a case where you can mix two drops together. So this is the same track on the left is Hysteria by Virtual Riot and Exterminate by Pegmer Nerds. And again, I think this came out like not very long ago at all. So this track, I think I have the cue point set up to this part of the build.
Let's get this thing off the ground.
And this was kind of fun because you'll see I'll do a couple things here. Let me just cue this up here. And then have this one play.
Get this thing off the ground.
So the only thing that I really did there was you can kind of just mix them together, and I mean it gets a bit messy there, but it's fine enough for this kind of set. But one thing that was important there is I cut out, because this drop that comes in, or this build that comes in, has this little vocal break right here.
Let's get this thing off the ground.
And if I just let the two play on top of each other, in fact, I could just do this. That gets really messy, right? So what we want to do is when this one has the vocal break, we want to cut out the other one too. Now I could also just leave the other one out after I cut it, but I also like to bring it back because the two builds together, I like the energy that they have. So in this case, we'll just do, again, kind of demonstrate. I mean, I'm taking it out anyway. Pull it down and then just pull it up to like halfway. We still have both. Like this is still adding something. And then when the one on the right comes in with its big stupid sample, then I cut out the other one again just to give it more energy. And I'm really hard on these faders because it feels satisfying, but also because it's easy. Whereas if I were doing that with this fader, I think it would be a lot harder. In fact, I think I also changed the settings because I wanted to see if I could learn scratching this summer. I'm really bad at it, by the way. But for that, they also recommend that you change the fader settings. So actually most of the middle part of the fader is just full volume on both until you get to like the edges. And I think I have that set here in case I like bump it or something. So just, again, stuff to make my my life easier. Arukai, do you have a YouTube of your music? I don't have a YouTube. I have a SoundCloud. I think I'm Ferris on there. I think, I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's one thing. And actually the next transition is one of my favorites of the whole set. So I'll let this play and then just kind of cue all that up.
Goddamn nerd.
Yeah, that's already ready.
Now I'm a god.
We've got a hot one for you.
Sorry, man. Juggalos all look the same to me.
Yeah, exactly, Hemosick. Like, these songs work so well together because they're all built to. So, just to go over this transition, on the right here. Yeah, that's exactly a Hemosick. Like, they're all totally built to just fit together, which is really great. I mean, it's the same thing as, like, doing really long transitions with a lot of, I guess, longer form house tracks. But with this stuff, it's kind of built to just be very... Like, a lot of the sound design is really staccato-y, and a lot of the transitions between the parts are very abrupt. I'm just going to pull up my SoundCloud here really quick. There's my SoundCloud. I don't think it's been updated in a while, but anyway. So this transition here, out of the Pegboard Nerds track, it just goes into this really, like, sparkly stuff. And the Lost Souls track on the left here also, this is after this really nice sort of break part in the middle, which is really pretty. But it's kind of hard to make work with a lot of other stuff. But that doesn't matter because this part is just straight into, again, sparkly stuff. So these two together just fit perfectly already. Was it these? I could just kind of bring this other one out. And if I only let this one play, it has like that. Well, it turns out we can do that on the right too with this pad effect. Right? And so I can just time that with when the other one happens. And it fits so well together. So again, to show that.
We've got a hot one for you.
And then I also just take it out. There, I did it too early, but it doesn't matter.
Juggalos all look the same to me.
And that just goes perfectly into the other track. So, like, some of that stuff is really fun. Finding those. And then there's somewhere I couldn't really find any good transition out of this, so then I just went into the intro. The other reason I went into the intro on this other one is because I just love this vocal, so I'm gonna just play that. And these are the easiest parts to do because I'm going from the one song just completely dying to this other song that has basically nothing going on in the intro. So then it's just to press play on the right one, and that's it. Done. And I'll just let the sample from the other one come out too. Now you'll notice the tracks aren't perfectly on synced in terms of which bar they're on, and that's okay. That I just kind of played around with a few times and decided this amount of weight before the vocal comes in is what I wanted for this transition. So that was just a little bit of trial and error. This is like the other break, and I don't think there are any other breaks like this in the whole set. But I love this vocal, so I really wanted to play that. I think, again, I'm just gonna do this without the cue so you guys can hear what I'm doing, but yeah, so this is, again, just another one that we can kind of bring in. In fact, I'm just gonna skip a bunch of this. And I tend to like cross hands when I do stuff on the left deck. That's just a comfort thing. It really doesn't matter. This is another case where I couldn't really find a better transition than just this. And this still works because these songs are in key. At least compatible keys. So one of the things I did there is that this kind of has this like horn thing that happens, or I guess it's like a flute. And so I'm kind of bringing this down, but I also like that it's in there. But then I felt like I took too long. So what I did is I turned on the delay and just brought it out and let the delay kind of fade it out for me. I really like that trick. And then you can turn off the delay if you want that to cut, which I'll usually do it like part of another song. So a lot of this is, again, just like exploiting the structure of the tracks that are there. And I found a lot of these transitions that worked by trial and error, which is a lot easier than it might seem because, again, a lot of these tracks just kind of fit. And so like it's worth, if you want to try this stuff, it's worth spending the time to like prepare and do this if you're not that comfortable with DJing, like I'm not. So like it really doesn't take that long to prepare, I guess is my other point. Like this stuff is not that difficult. Like I sat down for a couple evenings and just did this, just like sat and played with transitions. And that's also really fun because like I like this music a lot. So it's fun to just like play with this stuff. What was another one I really liked? I mean, I'm pretty proud of this set and a lot of the transitions that I found. But this one was one that I remember really liking, but mostly just because I love this track on the right, which we'll get to. But these both have this kind of Middle Eastern vibe, so they both just kind of work. Again, that's just a case of the tracks. They have that similar kind of, I don't know, Arabic, Middle Eastern vibe. So those just both kind of work on their own. I think this one's actually one of the more difficult transitions that I did in the set. I love this track, by the way. I think this is the oldest one that's in this list. I think this is 2016. Actually, no, the Encore is the oldest. But most of the music is quite new. Oh, by the way, I'm going to take this opportunity to do something else. This is fun. Stupid stuff. Oh, see, I missed a cue here, actually. Yeah, so there I actually wanted to take this song in while this other drop was happening, but I missed it, so I had to do it a little bit later, which is fine. Oh, that's really bad, by the way. That's completely off time. That's okay. So in this case, this is a case where I would definitely let this one play out. Slowly bring it back up. The song's coming back in, so I'll bring back the low end. It's okay that it's not all the way in there for the build. But then here, we're gonna really want it. Okay, so now I'll prepare for doing this right. The hard part about this is that this song on the left gets really melodic at the end, which is kind of what I don't want for bringing in the next part. But we're just gonna try it. See, these don't work together because the melodies go over on top of each other like way too much. But again, if that's as bad as it gets, you don't have a bad set, right? So like, this stuff is pretty forgiving. But you can see the process too, like, this is all prepared such that like, as one song's playing, I've already prepared the next one. So it's relatively straightforward how this all fits together, you know? Now this one would be a good one to do like a drop mix on. But I like how these parts fit together. Take this one down a little bit. Not the best transition in the world, but again, good enough. This song is stupid huge, by the way. See, now I'm just like, I forgot I was trying to show you guys stuff. And I just kept going, because it's fun. I love that drop. So stupid. By the way, explicit content. So, one thing here actually, this track is actually stretched right now, and that's like generally a no-no. But honestly, again, with music that's this hard, it's fine. This was bad because this was supposed to be in there already. We're just gonna go with it. That was not at all how that was supposed to go, but it's fine. I'm gonna skip one here. Isn't that funny? I love that. Yeah, when I was putting this together, I specifically knew, Graham, that you would love, especially a lot of this more screamy stuff. Yeah, this track is fabulous. So another thing here, by the way, this track actually does something really special. We're gonna skip some stuff. What happens after this other drop is it goes and it starts picking up speed, and the rest of the song's in another tempo. So I'll play it out. So here it's picking up speed, and this sucks as a DJ, unless if you're not if you don't have sync on and you want this to bring you up to a tempo that you're actually going to play, or down to a tempo that you're going to play, then this is actually awesome. This track is great for those kind of transitions. But in my case, I only wanted 150. So this is just like not helpful. But what you can do is you can use these hot cues to, instead of going into this part, I can just go to this other quiet part of the track. So instead, at the right moment, I'm just going to go back in the song. That's it, right? And this totally works. And then what I can do is I can bring in another track while that's happening. So in this case, I'll bring this in, which is perfect. So as these are kind of going through this part, I can just do the hotkeys at the same time. Like, I think the only other thing that I do is I filter this one a bit. We'll do it here. And this crowd goes great with this other track. Done. Looks like we're a little bit fast on this one, actually. Oh, no, we're fine. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. Again, this stuff is so easy once you set it up like this. Let's see. I think this one was fun, because I think this one I think I actually messed this transition up at TRSAC as well, but I wanted to bring in the vocal of this song over the drop of this one, which, as you guys can tell now, I quite like doing. And I think I missed the cue, so I ended up bringing in these vocals at the end, or during this quiet part of the song instead. But anyway, this is what it's supposed to be. But this works really well. And this only works because these songs are in key, by the way. Or these compatible keys. I high pass the vocals because there's some other stuff going on too, but we only want to hear that part. And then as this one sort of reaches its end, we'll bring in the bass of this one. So cool. Yeah, this is probably, I think this is my second favorite song of all the ones on this list, actually. That's so cool. My favorite song, which I knew I wanted to be the end, was also Phase 1. Actually, I have two favorite tracks. The next one is actually the next one, so I'll transition into that too. This is another one where I did some edits. I also messed up this transition for a song, but again, didn't matter. And the other thing is that I just love this song so much that I like let it play out. I'm just gonna skip a bunch. Like, I love this section here. So this is just me being indulgent, letting this part play. But this stuff is my teens, man. Like, I love this stuff. Yeah, because what I wanted to do is bring in the next track while these vocals come out, and I think I missed the cue. And which only really has the consequence that this track on the left ends up being a bit delayed in the set, so it's totally okay. Now, I probably should have changed the low end for this earlier, but this is okay if I just change it like that. Then we can let these vocals fade out while this other one comes in. That's also actually really important that you don't put two vocals on top of each other, because that gets really confusing, like mentally. So here it worked out really nice because the vocal on the left starts after the vocal on the right ends, even when I layer the tracks like that. So that's really nice. And then also because you have a vocal going into another vocal, it kind of keeps up that energy. So I'm really happy with that. But this is my other favorite song that was in this set. But I will show you another edit, because this second drop here is this like sort of psytrance-y thing, but I just wanted to go into the second drop, so I also have hotkeys to do that, which is what you see going on here. Yeah, totally G Superlin. The double kick metal stuff and then the halftime dubstep stuff, I really like that. I think it's so cool. I mean, it's just two things that I loved anyway. But yeah, here, so there's this other build-up, which again is perfect if I want to jump to the other drop of this song, because it'll just fit. And I think I actually do it a little bit before, which just fit better than doing the hot cue on the drop itself, which is something I played with. This again had one of those like vocal intros in the next part. Oh, wow. And these just fit together, right? So it depends on what you define prep. So in terms of putting all these hot cues and figuring out the transitions together, that was like 2 days, or 2 evenings. Like I think it was a bit on Saturday before maybe 3 evenings, because I did a little bit on Saturday before TRSAC, not much. Mostly I just bought the songs and got them into the software. And just played around a bit. But when I actually started laying this out, I think I laid out most of it like the Tuesday before TRSAC, and then the following night I laid out the rest. So it really doesn't take very long. Like if it seems like there's a lot of this stuff going on, like this stuff, I probably spent 5 minutes per song or something, if that even, because like again, a lot of these songs are built so that they're pretty compatible, and there's a lot of options. Like I guess the way to put it is it's a solution rich space. So like the particular transitions and everything that I found that worked really well, or at least that I think work really well, could have been done 10 other ways, as you've seen from when I messed up and I have to do something else. So the fact that it's like you're kind of already set up for success when you buy the songs. Thanks to Curbs. So Scene Sat probably will have a recording of it. I actually don't know though, but I think I said earlier, you might not have been here for that, but I think I said earlier that if they don't end up having a recording of it, I'm going to do this set again later, without all the commentary, just on stream, because I also really like this. So I think it'll be cool. Maybe I'll do some changes as well. But I want to talk about another couple transitions here. Actually, this next one, I won't play this whole song, even though I love this. This has a really cool medley part in the beginning too. I really like. But this is actually one of the areas in the set where like I kind of had played all the stuff that this gives me on the recommended thing. You can't really see that, but it doesn't matter. But then I needed to go into something else. And so one of the things that's really good to have in sort of an arsenal of tracks is some tracks that are really kind of atonal. And this Wampum by Barely Alive is totally one such track. So this Wampa one just has the whole base of the track is it has this sort of rising melody. Another really, really good one, like really good, like atonal track is MAD by Matt Zoe. That's one of my favorites. But let me just play a little bit of this. Like there is a key of this song. But the fact that it just has this. It's actually kind of funny because the sub goes down while the other sounds go up. It's this really funny dissonance that I really like. But that's great for these tracks where, like, if you don't have other songs that are in the key of another one, you can kind of bring in one of these atonal ones, and that'll kind of bridge that gap. And with a lot of these atonal ones, you can kind of bridge the gap both directions. So I could do something like after this wampum track, I could bring in another track that's in that same key, which I actually don't have any. You don't see the recommended list now, but it's actually empty. But that's fine because it's so atonal that I could just bring in whatever I want after that. And I did that on purpose. Then I brought in a track that was in E, which is a part of the set that I hadn't done a lot of. So then I had a couple songs laying around that were in E that I could just immediately go into. And then I think I switched back into F with the acid track that I had because it has this kind of quieter acid part. So that just kind of worked. But just kind of to show you that these songs are completely like not compatible key wise, but this totally works. So yeah. So again, because of both the structure of the other song, because it kind of comes up out of nowhere, but also because it's so atonal, it doesn't matter that the keys don't match up. This transition absolutely works. So that's kind of fun. And again, coming out of this song also works for the same reason. It looks like I do. Looks like I do it at the end of this drop too. Another one where I bring in the vocals of the next track in before this one's over. I mean, it's really like 3 or 4 mix ideas, and if you like go on YouTube and just search for DJ mixing tutorials or EDM mixing tutorials, you'll find all of this stuff. Which is what I did last summer. And again, I have sync and my hot cues and everything's on quantized, so it's just so easy to do this stuff. And I don't care that that's cheap because it's fun for me. I meant to high pass this, but it's okay that I low pass it, right? Just gotta be careful bringing this out, but basically done anyway. But again, those tracks were also not in really a compatible key, but it doesn't matter because of the structure of the song, and again, the other one's so atonal. So those are really good tools as a DJ to have. I think I might have that MAD track here. No, I don't. By the way, remind me to play some of this stuff later, just for fun. That's cool. I think, like, right now I'm really into this DJing thing. I thought this was so much fun. So I probably actually want to do a couple streams of that, but we'll see. See if I have time. But I wanted to play one more of my favorite songs, which I knew was going to be like this. I found in July, and I knew this was going to be the one that I end with. And so I think I actually play. Yeah, and I actually found this transition in this one. So what did I do here? Oh yeah, this is kind of funny. This track I play literally 20 seconds of. It's one of these drop mixes again.
Nobody's ready for the shot now.
Right, and that's fine. But this isn't the song I wanted you to hear. It was the next one. But it's this combination that I think is so cool.
Nobody's ready for the shot now.
Oh, you know what? I missed it, didn't I? Whoops. Yeah, this one has to be really fast. I did this right at TRSAC, I believe. We'll see. I love this because like here, get this really low stuff, and this super pretty vocal on the other side. And then the next one goes into a build-up, so I want to cut that out like now, and I use the delay for that, but it's already done. So but I love that transition, and I love this track on the left. Like I knew I wanted to end with that already in July, so pretty cool how that worked out. And actually, I think that's the only time where this set actually got like difficult to prepare, is that I knew I wanted to end with these tracks, so I had to come back to them somehow, and so I kind of had to work from forwards and backwards when kind of preparing these. So I think that's how I did it, is I went sort of backwards until I found a point that worked. And I think this Wampum track was the one that ended up tying it all together, because you can see, well, I guess there's a couple tracks in E, and then I go back to F with the acid track that I made, and then these other ones, I guess, just fit. So maybe it wasn't that hard, but I feel like that's what I did. I don't really remember. But yeah, I love this track, especially again this part. This is such a cool remix too, because it's so different from the original. So I think that's awesome. And then the encore track I just knew had to be hardstyle. And this artist Kameli has always been one of my favorite. Just way too much going on, in your face Japanese artists. So it was a perfect ender. That's really fun. Then there's a lot of stuff I didn't play. In fact, I actually had his Megalovania remix queued up, which I thought would be another good encore track. But I liked the other one better, or I was in the mood for the other one rather. But it's also a great track. Actually, for those of you that are familiar with this is awesome. And you guys can check out the rest on Kameli's YouTube, which I recommend you do, because it's really, really great. It's blue balled that so hard. But yeah, so I had a lot of other tracks too that I didn't play that I think are really cool. You'll also notice that a lot of these tracks, they don't have album art or proper artist names and stuff, and that's because I bought them in Wave. One of the things that I do as a producer a lot is reference mixing, and then having those as waves is ideal for that. But I guess a couple tracks I would have loved to play, in particular this one I think is really cool if I remember it right. But sometimes it's just hard to find places where some of these songs go, and I think this one was particularly a lot of trouble because it's 160 instead of 150. So I think if I had more like 170 and drum and bass tracks also as part of the set, I would have used this one as sort of like a tempo transition, like some kind of go between there. But that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because I had so much 150 stuff that was just awesome and fit well together. That I didn't even bother doing any kind of tempo changes with the transitions, because they're more difficult. And if you don't need to do them, then don't do them. I also have a bunch of really nice 128 stuff that I would love to play at some point. That would make a great set. Some Logicoma stuff, and definitely some jungle that I need to play at some point. I'm just going to play a little bit of this because it's so cool. Let's see if I can come up with a transition here into something else. I'll do it into one of their other tracks. No, better. I can do better than that. Do this one. that's not gonna work. It's way too vocally. That's awesome, G Superland. And this track is so cool. This track's really cool too because it's fairly sparse mix-wise, but it has so much energy anyway. I think it's so cool. I don't think there's any good way to mix these tracks, by the way, but we're gonna try something for fun. Yeah, because there's vocals here too. So there's no really way to bring this in unless the song's gonna do the outro. So you're gonna have to play this whole track. Unless you have another track that works really well with these vocals coming in, which I don't think I do. But yeah. Yeah, it totally rides Jungle Liquid very well. You're absolutely right. But I do have one complaint about the track, which is as a DJ, I would actually prefer that there was a section in the middle without vocals. But then again, this whole section here, it's totally worth playing 2 minutes of because it's so good. But that's totally okay. I guess that works. Not bad for a first try. Oh, this will actually work really well. Oh no! I meant to go into the first drop of this song. That's okay. So yeah, this is stuff you guys would have heard in the set had Dwarf not made such a big deal of my set last year not being hard enough. Oh, it's all fun though. This again, a transition that only works because they match the key. Not great. I think this track actually just needs trim. It won't though. Let's try this. I think this will be really bad because it's vocals on top of vocals. But then you guys get a chance to hear what that sounds like. Yeah, it just gets like really confusing. Also, these are different keys. Yeah, not great. Also, that track is the one I played before. It's a bootleg that I started in like 2015 or something, and finally played it out at Revision 2018 with Logicoma. And I love that I did that bootleg, but I don't like how it sounds. And there's no way to transition out of that second part, so need to edit that. Guess near that later. I think that might have been everything I kind of wanted to share with the set. Again, it came down to like track selection with stuff that worked, and then building this set list, like sort of collecting songs over many months, and then picking the best and kind of putting them together. And they all just kind of worked because they were similar genre, similar tempo. In fact, almost identical tempos the whole way through, and pretty much identical genre the whole way through. Would have been more of a challenge with some BPM changes, but I would have tried to find songs that would have made that easier. Again, just because I'm not that comfortable of a DJ, so anything I can do to help myself with preparing beforehand and using sync and whatever is totally fine by me. I guess I can spend a little bit of time talking about the acid track, perhaps. Maybe. I actually don't know if I have enough time to really meaningfully do that. Especially now, because I think this is a later version that I'm working on where I'm like trying to swap out a bunch of the sounds, and it sounds kind of all over the place. Which is kind of a fun place to be in. But yeah, this is probably going to be, well, I guess maybe not that loud for you guys. But one thing that I will say is that this was totally related to doing the other set. In particular, it was the idea here is that I wanted to enter the acid compo. I knew I wanted to do that, but I'd also been listening to a lot of this really hard dubstep for a few months. So my head was really in that kind of headspace. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do is, especially one of the things that I would listen to is with a lot of these tracks, it's not just the really upfront sounds that are the ones that really give it that character, but actually it's the sounds sort of behind the sounds. And so I really wanted to play with that kind of layering. And one of the things that I thought that would probably work is if I took some kind of squeaky sound that was based on that sort of moogie filter squeak that a lot of the acid stuff has, and sort of turn that into these dubstep drop sounds, or at least like the main layer, and then do some layering behind them. And it turns out I actually think this worked out pretty well. So let me play a little bit of this. Again, I'm working on this right now, so it's a little bit all over the place. But we can start with just the build up into the drop as it is in this particular version. Switch headphones and it sounds so different to me now.
Yeah, let's go. Switch.
Yeah, so the main sort of part of that is this lead here. And the way I did this is I actually watched a Virtual Riot sound design tutorial, which I used to never watch YouTube tutorials for production, just kind of figure everything out myself. If you guys listen to my 2014 EP on Spotify or whatever, I'm super proud of those songs, and 99% of the sounds I made straight up from the ground up, and I'm really proud of that. But now I think that's such a waste of time because a lot of those sounds would have sounded similar to something anyway, and I would have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of sort of hair pulling not doing that. So in a way, I'm happy I did it for all the experience, because now, like, when I watch a YouTube tutorial video, I know what I can take from it and what I can make my own, and I'm really happy about doing that. But I just would have saved so much time if I had just let myself watch more tutorials. And I think I would have learned more ultimately, actually, because I would have been doing more work with the same amount of time. But anyway, if I sort of change this out, because right now this is like acid sound. If I change this out to something else, for example, let's just try, this might sound like ass, but we can just try. This already sounds a lot more like more common dubstep sounds. I mean, it's pretty harsh because of the processing I have on it, but the whole idea, again, was just to take this and just make it the acid sound. So the sound, there's kind of a lot going on, but I can sort of isolate some elements. And there's a lot of processing on the end of this, too, that I should probably turn off. Let me actually play it for you as it is, just with no processing on it, which is going to sound like ass, but this will be fun. It's so wimpy. And there's also a lot of processing going on here already too. But a couple key points that I'll just show. Let me bring back some of this. We need this, at least. These are just like limiters and brick walls. Relays. In fact, I think most of the sound comes from here. Most of the crunch. The sound itself is fairly minimal. There's this sort of main oscillator here. I'll just leave all the processing on while I do this. And again, this is just that really acid sound. And this actually almost sounds better on its own. Yeah, but there's a sort of main acidy sound, and most of that just comes from like doing this sort of squeak thing with this LFO. I think these are running at 8ths, so there's also some automation on this sort of squeak parameter here. And then most of the like amplitude envelope is controlled with this LFO. And the really nice thing about this is that you layer this, and I think I have some FM from this oscillator, which just adds a little bit of squeak and almost some harsh high end, but that harshness gets kind of lost within the rest of the sound when everything's there. There's this filter here too, which is just kind of isolating this and kind of making it more vowely. I think that might be something I might change. And then a little bit of noise just to make it more upfront. And of course the sub for all the low end. And the sub actually does quite a lot to the sound, because it's not just adding sub, it adds sub pre all of this processing here. So that ends up getting distorted with a lot of the other sounds. And the chain is just, I have sausage fattener because I'm lazy, which is fairly high. I think I turned this way down on most of the other sounds. And then, yeah, this multi-band unit just does a lot. Instant brightness with this kind of stuff. This configuration is essentially OTT. I usually do this by hand, but I just pull in the default dynamics processor and then bring up all the bands and then just sort of do upwards compression. Now, of course, anything above 0 on the output here is going to be way too loud, and so then I usually put that into some kind of saturator. I particularly like using the glue compressor in live with the soft clip. I like how that sounds, so that just kind of tames it a bit, and then I use trash to bring in some more saturation. And then there's parts of this sound where I have reverb towards the end of the drop here. So that's what the reverb's doing. I think it's basically entirely dry until the end here. And that just brings a little bit of room to that. Makes it a bit harsh, but I think I bring out most of that with a couple notches in the EQ. And then one of the really important things about this sound actually is the layers. So there's this layer down here, which is just some really messy stuff. But let me sort of play this without and with. I don't know if you guys can really hear the difference, but it gets so much roomier when I have this underneath, just because it's filling in a lot of the spectrum there. And also there's a lot of reverb on this, which kind of makes this sound sort of sound more like it's in a space. So these two end up just kind of sounding like the same sound. There's another layer I think I add here, which also helps fill out that space. Again, just really messy stuff. But this also goes with that eighth note groove. Actually, it's a quarter note groove, but yeah. And then a little bit of stuff that's just like some reverb tails from other parts of the track, which I really like how this stuff sounds. So, in fact, I'll probably automate this more in the track to make it fit more with the rhythms of the other part. So it's all those different kind of layers, and I tried so many different kinds of sounds and kept coming back to this rhythm and this sound. So I'm pretty happy with that at this point. Oh yeah, G Superman points out the vocal. I think do you mean the at the start here where it's like Oh, I know what you mean. You mean the bow one. This one here. That one, that growl. So I'll be straight up with you. That is a Virtual Riot sample. Because this kind of really Skrillexy growl, man, there's so many tutorials on how to do this on YouTube. Why not just take the sample? It was one of those things where I knew exactly what I wanted. But yeah. But earlier with the traffic kind of sound. Do you mean this one? Is that the one you mean? Not sure. It's repeated on each bar. I'm not sure what you mean. It's hard to describe, I know.
Switch.
Oh, is it this one? Oh, like before the sample, you mean? Or do you mean the growl before, or do you mean right before the sample? I'm not sure. But yeah, another thing that happens here is I bring in this ARP from the beginning of the track, which totally always like adds a lot of atmosphere, and then I bring in more of these like tails. I just love how those sound. Oh, the one on every bar. Yes, the beginning one, which would be this one up here. And it also goes into this. So this has a couple cool layers because it has this, and then I think I tried some other sounds. Really snailsy, but also bad, so I didn't use that. It has that, and then it has this little layer down here. I think it's this one, which is this little... I don't know what that used to say, but it sounds kind of like boom to me, and most of this is just filtered out. There's not much left of this. But it just fills in a lot of space that other part didn't have on its own. And it's shorter on some of these other parts. And there's a modified version of that at the end, where this bar is going to end, where it just kind of reverbs out. Which just sounds cool. That happens behind the blah 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 sound. Getting a lot of feedback on that delay there. I want to make these transitions better in general. Like compositionally, they're too quick, and that's 100%. That's 100% due to lack of time, because I put the song together relatively quickly. But I wanna go through and fix that. I think that's just a serum preset. This is one I modified.
I hate dubstep.
Oh yeah, I'm totally changing the sounds here, and I'm not happy with them yet, so bear that in mind.
Wait, hold up.
So yeah, sneak preview of something that's bad. And then I want to have like a sample that's like rewind here and then like brrr, whatever that sound is before it goes back into this repeated part of the drop before it. Because I really like the groove of this part. I think that sounds really good. But the main reason I'm changing sounds here is because they just weren't nearly as bright and present as the acidy sounds, but I also want them to have, I want to really bring out this kind of quarter note groove here. So probably going to go back and forth and kind of fix those up. The other major thing I want to change with this song is the build-ups need more energy, and I need to change the layers because they sound a bit harsh. In general, a couple of sounds here are a bit harsh, but actually according to the references, they're not. So I'll do more work with that. And then the intro I'm going to make way shorter because they actually asked for 16 bars for intro and outro for the competition, like just to be able to have it be mixed with a lot of the other acid tracks. And of course, this isn't acid, but they kept it in the compo and everything. So I'm gonna make the intro at least half the length, and I'm gonna make the outro like almost nothing, and that'll be fine. Also, the second drop where there's a lot of like these vocal cuts and stuff, that was totally due to lack of time. I totally wanted to have different synth sounds there, so we're gonna have to figure that out. But yeah, so that's a bunch of the changes that I'm gonna currently make, and maybe I'll do another stream where I go over more of this sort of production process in more detail. But overall, I'm fairly happy, especially with the mix on this, because it sounds really loud and upfront, which is what I like. It sounds a lot like the references that I'm using. But I think it could use a bit more space and generally a bit more work on sort of cleanup. A lot of these sounds get kind of hard to manage, but generally also this mix was relatively easy to do, and it's pretty tame, and that's mostly due to the fact that there actually isn't that much limiting. I mean, that's of course relative. It depends on who you ask. Like negative 8.2 on this threshold seems like a lot, but actually not that much.
Switch.
This limiter is essentially like at the, if I mute the kick and the snare, just this one and this one. It's just kind of just cutting into most of the meat of the song. And then, by the way, this is really funny. Most of this is in this group called Ducky Boys, and I duck so much stuff with the kick and the snare. If I mute the kick and the snare, this sounds just stupid. Actually, let me also play it with just the kick and the snare. Relatively basic. But yeah, without the kick and the snare, there's so much sidechain. And without that,
Switch.
and if I bring back the kick and the snare and I don't bring back the sidechain, then it sounds real bad. Let's do that. So it just clips like hell, and it sounds like the kick and the snare are just drowning in the mix otherwise. But here, I use LFO tool to literally cut it all the way, which is really funny. And that's why without the kick and the snare, it just sounds stupid.
Switch.
Just these big holes.
switch.
Oh, that's funny. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go for now. Work on this a bit later. But yeah, thanks guys for hanging out. I'm glad you enjoyed this kind of stream. If you're interested in me doing more DJ and music related stuff, I think I am too, so that's cool. But yeah, thanks again, and I will see you next time.